What's up, guys? Shane from Dad's Little Warriors. This is season 2, man. We're getting some good dads. So last week we did Odell, and Sydney Walker, all those guys, and we had the idea to go ahead and bring one of our other supporters on here that's got some stuff from us and everything. And this is Josh, man, and Josh has really been through it. I've heard he's like the wizard of words. So we're gonna find out. Josh seems like a really great guy. He got some stuff off of us, and yeah, man. Let's go ahead and bring you in. We got Josh and Fallon, right? So you got Fallon.
Fallon K, man. Yeah, I want to make a correction too. I'm more of like a pirate of paragraphs. I steal shit, man. That's if you hear me say anything, somebody else way smarter than me said it.
Man.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
do what you gotta
appreciate
do
the kind
sometimes.
words, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Fallon. Fallon K is our sweet little girl, man. She's 3.5 now. And
Bro, time out.
she is tied.
Do you have a green screen back there? Because there's a fucking deer out your back window.
No.
Did
See,
you plan that?
that's no, I didn't plan that. Hold on. I'm gonna move. We're going on the move. Brand new addition to Dads of Little Warriors podcast, Dad Talk. There's yeah. So my I live in the city, but you wouldn't think it if I just turn around. Yeah, there. So like this is my back patio,
Yeah.
and there's a deer. So
I thought it was
yeah,
like a
and then
pet. I thought
there's
like
more.
you like cued that in.
Nope,
No
they're everywhere,
shit.
dude. No, yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, it sucks too, because like we go hunting, my brother and I, and every year we go to Indiana, and my uncle gives me crap all the time. He's like, dude, he's from the country, like just super good guy, but he's like, dude, he's like, screw those city folks. He's like, just pull up a gun, put it out your window, and pull the trigger, man. I'm like, dude, if I wouldn't go to jail, I would, like,
Yeah,
sincerely.
right. Yeah.
So but yeah, so anyhow, yeah, we
All right,
we
sorry
get a
about that,
lot of.
dude. It caught me off guard because like I'm like, bro, there's definitely, I'm all about that. And there's a deer right there in the
Yeah,
background.
sorry.
You couldn't have planned that any better.
So, but yeah, man, yeah, I'll leave him in. There he is.
It's cool. Yep.
So, but
But
no,
yeah,
man,
man.
yeah, yeah, Fallon, yeah, she's. I was saying she's tied for Audrey and I for the most states we've lived in. She was only here for 6 months, and then we express mailed her ass out to Delaware on a plane, and yeah, we spent a year out there. We met Odell that you had mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Very very dear friend of mine today, and the Westfields, Kaylin and Adrian. They've got a little girl named Kaden, and she has Campamelic just like Fallon does.
Okay.
So we've got it. Yeah, man, we've met some really, really sweet people. I mean, you and I now,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So right before we started recording, I like sincerely, I think our timelines with knowing Odell just missed each other to where
Yeah.
I think if my wife and I would have spent another, 4 to 6 months out in Delaware, I think you and I would have wound up, seeing each other in person before meeting
How long
online.
were you
So
out here? How long were you in Delaware?
literally a year to the
Wow.
T. Yeah, we moved out March of 21, came back March of 22. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was a tight year, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like an eternity, man.
no doubt, bro.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like it's just it's coming into the medical thing and all that stuff, like you just don't realize what other people are going through and like the sacrifices they've made. Like you say it like so nonchalant, like, oh yeah, man, we lived there for like a year. It's cool. I mean, followed up by the
I'm
eternity.
fine. Everything's fine.
But yeah, man. So how old is she now?
Fallon is 3.5.
Okay.
And doing great, man.
Awesome.
We had I say we had a fun weekend. We unfortunately we have some very close calls with her. And so, this past Friday, a couple nights ago, my aunt and my uncle are they've been ER nurses for like 30 years. Then my aunt wound up going and getting her nurse practitioner's license and
So
stuff like
people are
that.
having the
So
family. Yeah.
yeah. So, when it comes to date nights and stuff, man, they're super helpful on coming over and watching Fallon for a couple of hours. So luckily they were here. Audrey and I were just right up the street, and Fallon had, unfortunately an emergency. So we had a little bit of a rough weekend, but outside of stuff like that happens rarely. these days. You know, she does great, man. So it's been a weird ride from like day one to today. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about you. I feel like we just hit a place where I can look back and be like, oh shit, those were hard days.
Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean? And
Yeah.
like don't get me wrong, like there's definitely still some really tough days that we have, um but I know you've got Lucy, right? And
Yep.
Lulu, like what I and forgive me, I tried to do a little bit of research on
Yeah.
your girls and stuff.
Mhm.
I know you had mentioned Lucy just got recently diagnosed and stuff with
Yep.
spine,
Cerebral
was it
palsy.
cerebral palsy?
Yep. Yeah. So when she was born with HIE, which is a really broad like diagnosis. It's literally like lack of oxygen and blood flow to the brain during birth, prior or during birth. So obviously that can lead to anything. You know what I mean? So cerebral
Mm.
palsy is one of the main things that comes off of that HIE. Literally, like the doctor can tell us, yeah, she's got brain damage on both sides and the front lobe, of her brain, but like she's only 8 months. She'll be 9 months, the 15th of this month. So like
Wow.
you can't tell. You know what I mean? Like we don't know
Mm.
anything. We're just doing all these therapies and we can see things. We know things, we're with her every day and everything like that. That we can tell are, one either delayed or just not normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm terrible with terms, man. So like I try not to offend anybody when it comes to terms, but like I don't know. Like I don't know what everybody uses, but not normal.
Sure.
Um, so really like we're going in this blind, like we
Yeah.
really we know what we know now and what we see and what we can tell. But like she's killing it, man. Like there's different like categories of HIE. There's mild, moderate, and severe, which obviously, of course, no brainer. She has severe. That's just the luck of the draw. that's
Yeah.
that's
Right.
life, that's the life that we live. And then severe brain damage and stuff like that. And then it left to or led to her right arm is the main affected thing other than just like her feeding and stuff like that. That's pretty typical with that stuff. But it's her right side, which then led to the cerebral palsy and everything.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, man, it's a lot of therapies and unknowns and neurology appointments and everything like that. And then we have our 2-year-old Lulu, man, and she's just a fucking riot. Like, this girl is like
Nice.
a feral cat, man, like flipping off the couch and shit, like you know what I mean, just living the terrible twos, like just to a
Right.
but yeah, man, it's a big life change and a lot of unknowns, and like I was kind
Sure.
of thinking about that today, and I'm like, you like between you, Odell, Logan, like you guys have like such a tight network. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm.
were able to kind of connect and all that stuff to where like some of the stuff like with us there's not much out there. I got another dude, man, that's ready to jump on. It's willing to jump on a podcast, and his son actually, or his son had HIE and everything like that.
Mm.
So it's kind of like one of those things. I see you guys, going through and kind of building up your network and your, community, of
Mm.
guys that like you can just really bounce back off of because, you're different, but you're similar. You know what I mean? Like you have
Yeah.
similarities that you can kind of compare and go off of. Um,
Right.
so it's a wild adventure, man. We did IVF with Lulu, and we were really thankful that she was with us. And then Lucy, here she comes, fucking wrecking ball, bro. She's like,
Here
I
I
can't,
am.
I can't let my sister steal the spotlight, man. I know you're IVF, and we had to kind of put you in there, but here I am, motherfucker. Watch out.
Right. Dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's I think the network thing for dads especially, and I told you off camera, like I appreciate what you're doing because I think a lot of dads, which I'm sure pretty much every guy is going to get on here and say the same thing. Like I just think for dads especially, I remember when we first found out about Found's diagnosis, we got it at her 20-week anatomy scan,
Yeah.
and and so like we knew ahead of the the delivery that
Mhm.
Fallon had Campomelic and what the risks were. The doctors gave her a 5% chance of surviving
Wait.
up until the delivery. And then once she got here, just because of some of the unfortunates that kids with CD have, the chances significantly drop less than 1%,
Sure.
once the baby actually gets here.
Yeah.
And so, Fallon, we just weren't sure. And I just remember after processing it, like when we got hit with the news, I'm not gonna lie, I sat on my porch for about 3 days and just got hammered like
Yeah,
every
man.
single day. Like
Yeah.
I felt so I I had never felt so alone and isolated and hurt ever in my life. Like, and my wife felt the same way. I mean, her spot was inside. Especially when it's nice out, man.
Sure.
I love sitting out and
Yep.
smoking a cigar
Yeah.
and so those 3 days were really rough. And then, there was just a point of like a shift where we were just like, you know what, fuck it. Like
Yeah.
if this, because at that point we didn't know if it was a girl or a boy. So we were like,
Sure.
if this baby's going to fight, like
Run it,
we're
man.
doing it, like
Yep.
whatever it takes, and
Yeah.
um, so anyhow, I think for me, that fight turned into just working my ass off, making sure we had money
Yeah.
set aside for, I kept hearing medical expenses, all my dad and my friends, my brother, they were all just very supportive, but they were all just very realistic and said, hey,
Sure.
like we don't know what this is going to look like financially. So I was just like, all right, well shit, I'll get to work.
I
And
fucking dig in, man, and just get.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. And when you do that, I think Logan said on the last one, like, you know, your wife's phone is going off
Yeah.
nonstop, and I, not to steal his thing, but I couldn't agree more. Like I just remember I had really good friends here back home, but you know how guys are,
Yeah,
it's
man.
like you'll get a text every once in a while and
Well, you don't think about it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like you
correct.
really
Correct.
don't, like and I said in one of my previous ones, like even when we had Lulu, like, I went through it a little bit, obviously not as bad as this with Lucy, but like I went through it with Lulu with like Sam and IVF, my wife Sam. And I'm like, it hurt me more, like the unknowns, like of how she was going to react. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
and then when we had Lulu, like I didn't know like it was a thing to like support dads. And like the first dude that texted me and was like, "Hey man, congratulations!" I'm like, "Fuck, dudes do this." Like that was
Yeah.
cool. Like I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't do that for my buddies because I didn't know.
Right.
Lulu was our first kid, and that's what's wild, man. And when we were in there, it was the same thing. Like, and honestly, man, like I really appreciate you like being real. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
saying how you feel when it came to that because, and like I've thought about it a lot here lately, and I'm like, man, would it have helped me if I'd have known something, prior to? And like, I'm just a worrying kind of person. Like, that's me,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
I literally probably wouldn't be here. Like, I would have worried myself to death to where I'd have went fucking crazy,
Hmm.
and like getting hit with it in the moment of not knowing that there was an issue, there could be an issue, you know what I mean? It was still fucking rough.
Yeah.
I was in like such a fucking, and hearing you say that, like, dude, I was in such a dark place.
Yeah.
Like, I was in the hospital. We were staying in there. We didn't leave. We had Lulu at home. My mom was watching her. And, dude, I was like, mm, yeah, it was fucking rough. Like, I was playing,
Yeah.
like,
Well, one of my luckily I one of my a good friend of mine who I knew from back home, his daughter had something similar to what Fallon had. She at least had a trach event, and
mm,
so there were some similarities there. And one of the things that I felt like he said really cool was he had texted me a couple of weeks in. He didn't say anything for the first couple of weeks, and then after about like week 2 or week 3, I've been in the NICU. I mean, obviously you remember those days, like just
amen.
around the clock, like your wife's crying, you're crying,
Yeah,
you're trying to decipher doctors and nurses. You're a brand for us. We, Found's our first, so like we're trying to figure out just being parents for a
sure.
second. And he had said something that I have always told other dads that I meet is like, welcome to the VIP club. Like it's the club nobody wants to be a part of, but we're all
Yeah,
in. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just, I think it gives guys and moms, especially us, a badge of like, our kids didn't sign up for this. We didn't sign up for this,
yep,
but we're all in it, And so if you do it the right way, I really think there's a lot of beauty in it too.
Sure.
Like you once you go through suffering, like a sincere level of suffering. Like I'm a Christian, and so Paul writes in scriptures. I was just reading it the other day, um, where he talks about enough suffering leads to hope eventually. Like there's a couple of graduations. Like there's suffering, then there's character, and then character turns to behavior or something like that, and then behavior turns to hope. And I really do, man, especially like where we're at now, and being able to look back and think about truly like how broken we were, how broken we still are. My wife and I still have days where it's impossible to like even just get out of bed,
Right.
and when we have moments where we almost lose Fallon, like we were in a Target parking lot about 2 months ago, and she had a mucus plug.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, like if you have a child with a trach, a mucus plug is essentially your 2-year-old swallows a gumball, and they're choking, right? And you
Yeah.
can't just Heimlich it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because Fallon's got a really tiny chest and torso, so if I squeeze that girl, it would
Yeah.
probably be like a tube of toothpaste, for her, she stops breathing, and then unfortunately, she gets close to losing her heartbeat and stuff. And
Yeah.
so we still have those days, and they suck ass, like
Yeah.
sincerely. Like I'm not a suicidal person.
Sure.
I don't get that dark, but like
Yeah.
those days are the closest I've ever been to like just feeling so much impeding darkness. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And
Yeah.
and but again, like I feel like the longer we go at this shit, it truly feels like suffering eventually turns into hope, where it's just, I think there's a layer of skin on us now, where I don't know about you, but like certain shit doesn't piss me off or stress me out anymore.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
cut off in traffic still kind of irks me, but like I'm not like pull over, you motherfucker.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like that guy sucks,
Uh,
like,
Exactly, man.
you know.
I feel it. And I don't know if mine's like the pills because I mean, I don't know about anybody else or whatever. And I'm not scared to admit it. Like, I did end up going to the doctor for like, PTSD, anxiety, depression, stuff like that, man.
Yeah,
I had to because like I was never like the biggest, like happiest person. You know what I mean? Before.
sure.
And when you throw this stuff on here, I've always just been business, business, business. You know what I mean? Like, I just do
Right.
my thing, I put my face on, and I get to work. Um, but yeah, man, I had to go in, and I was feeling that, like, I was feeling pretty rough, man. Do you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
it was getting pretty dark, and I'm like, you know what, man? It's anything, if anything can help, like, let's do it. Like, whatever, I'll try it and see what happens. And
Sure.
and it did help, man. You know what I mean? It really did. Like, we didn't get a chance. I just never really did a therapy, man. You know what I mean? Like, and there's
Mhm.
nothing against it. But I always thought, like, somebody reading something out of a book, they're gonna tell me kind of what they want to tell me. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
kind of got to just deal with my shit, suck it up, and deal with it the way that I can deal with it. You know?
Right. Well, and it's funny, just talking about dads supporting other dads. And to be fair, like I think obviously every man, especially, is going to go through stuff like you and I go through
Mhm.
differently. And I think that's something I have to remind myself of too, because I try hard to be encouraging to other dads, and
Yeah.
and try to lift people up. But then like, I reached out to a buddy of mine a few weeks ago. He was just having a rough day, and
Mhm.
I sent him like, brother, I love you. And I sent him like this giant paragraph. I'm
I
like,
said, yeah.
scripture says this, man, believe, like, and all this stuff. And at the very end of it, I'm like, hey man, did you get a chance to, read, like, what do you think? And how are you feeling? And he's like, man, you sent me a lot to read. And I'm like, and it kind of honestly, like, it slapped me a little bit. And I'm like, well, shit, like, I know him better than that, like,
Yeah.
I should have just called him and said, what's up, bitch? You doing all right? Like,
Yeah.
let
Right.
me come over and give you a hug. Like, like it's
That's
just
awesome.
everybody's different, man,
It is.
um but I don't know. I think you get to meet a lot of really cool people in this space too,
You man. Yep.
because you get to
And
see what people are really made of,
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
like the good, like sweet stuff in life. It's like people fall on their face in this world with kids with disabilities, and like I love seeing a family with a child that's like 20 years old that has gone through this for I revere people like that,
Yep.
man. You know,
Yeah.
because it's like, brother, 20 years of
And
hospital visits and close calls, and like, man, are those people badass? You
I know.
know, like,
And it's the famous saying of, I don't know how you do it. You know what I mean?
yes,
I don't fucking know
yes,
either, dude. Like, just get up and
yes,
fucking
yeah.
roll with the punches and dodge the ones that you can, you know? And that's
Right.
like kind of what we've done. So it's funny, like, this whole thing was based off of social media. Like, it wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't have known Odell, Logan, anybody else, you know what I mean? To be able to bring this
Yeah.
thing together. And my wife, she ended up becoming really good friends with a guy with cerebral palsy, and he's like
Mm.
36. He's out in Oregon, and they found the dude on TikTok. And
Oh, cool.
dude, we talk like daily between, bouncing off, and like, man, when he comes on the screen, like he'll FaceTime us and stuff, and like Lucy will be there, dude, she fucking lights up like a Christmas
Oh, that's
tree.
cool.
You know what I
That's
mean? And
cool.
like he
Yeah.
loves it, I love it. And like one day, so we kept telling him, like, man, we'd really like to meet your parents. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's weird, like, you think of like a 36-year-old dude, you think like his parents are going to be like 70, 80, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
knocking on the door. And like one day, this dude, like, his dad, he's like called his dad in or whatever, and his dad comes in, and the dude's like 45. You know what I mean? Like looking,
Wow.
whether he
Oh,
was
okay.
or
Okay. I
not,
was
but
like,
like he was like
damn.
45 looking, dude. And I'm like, look, man, coming from a 30, almost 37-year-old dude, and like your son being 36, he's about my age. I'm like, you did a fucking amazing job. Like that's
Yeah. Wow.
all I can say. Like, the dude is like trying to bring awareness. He's wrote a book. The kid's been to I can't say kid. The dude's been to college. Like,
Wow.
and this dude is just like trying to do so much, and like the support he has to have, like that just shows what his parents are. And that's where
Right.
I put us in that fucking category, man. Like, I
Yeah.
just talking to you, we messaged a bunch on Facebook and stuff like that, and like this is our first, face to face kind of call and talk and stuff. Like, I can tell you're in it, you know what I mean? Like,
I appreciate that,
there's no
man.
doubt.
I'm well, and it's, we've gotten that too. I don't know how you do it, and but typically if people say that, like, we'll just, oh, thank you, that's
Yeah,
sweet, like, because you don't want to have that conversation with people that don't care, or like they're just saying it, so they don't know what to say to you.
yeah.
And one of my really dear friends had said that to me a few months back, and he and I were on the phone, and he was just like, man, he's just like, I just want to say like how much I appreciate you as a dad and all this stuff, and I'm like, gay, like, like, but then he's like, no, man, seriously, like, I just,
Tell
like,
her
I don't
about
know how you do it, and I'm like, listen, everybody would, if you care about your child,
it. Yeah,
everybody would, like, now granted, would everybody get through it the same way? Probably not, but
yeah,
like, I do think God entrusts folks like us with kids that we have. I don't think that's by accident at all. But I also think that, like, God forbid, something happens, an accident happens, and one of our friends is tossed into it that we respect as a father. Like, like a good dad is gonna do it every day,
exactly.
and
It,
no
it
matter
doesn't
what, no matter
matter
what the odds.
medical or non-medical
Yes,
like that.
yes,
Like, I fucking had guys that I've looked up to. You know what I mean? That have
yeah,
dads, and I'm like, dude, you're killing it. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
you're just doing it, and you can tell that you're putting them first, and you're doing what you got to do, and that's awesome. That's
yeah.
all about.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's I don't know. But it is, like, I will say, it is fun to like mess with them at times, like, oh, you couldn't get your truck clean last week? Oh, that must suck. We almost lost our daughter last
Yeah,
weekend,
right,
asshole, like,
motherfucker.
like, so it's, and obviously, like, dark humor, if anybody that doesn't know, like, I'm sure you do, like, dark
Yeah,
humor just
dude,
comes with this territory, man.
it does, man.
You got to be able to joke about it. Otherwise, like,
Yeah,
that's how I don't think I would survive if I couldn't joke about it. Like,
for sure, 100%.
it's so therapeutic to just laugh about shit. But
I got your book, man, and I thought that was super cool. So what kind of got you into that? Like, what was the idea
so
behind that?
the honest answer, I'm gonna adjust this real quick because I think my phone's pretty charged up. So the honest answer is, I don't know if you have the book at your house
Hmm.
called Good Night Moon.
Hmm.
It is a book where a kid literally says goodnight to like everything in his room, and it
Okay.
sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. I think it's very unimaginative. I think it's very boring. The illustrations aren't even the best. It's just good because it's old.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, we read a lot of books to Fallon in the NICU,
Hmm.
and I've never been a writer ever, 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 ever. And I got one pissed off that somebody, because if you Google the lady who wrote Goodnight Moon, I think she has like one other book,
Okay.
multimillionaire off of
Yeah.
two books. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not obviously like not to make money, but I'm just
Sure.
like off of this, like
Yeah.
this. And so I don't know. I've always loved children's books. My mom read them to me a lot when, obviously when I was growing up,
Mhm.
and so I've always loved them. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna try to write my own. And so honestly, for a couple of weeks, man, my brother. It was really cool when Fallon was first born. My brother was one has always been like my best friend,
Okay.
and two, like throughout this whole thing, he's been just a godsend. But
Yeah.
he um, he was really awesome the day she was born. Like he was just getting all nervous, and he's like, I just don't know how I'm supposed to meet one of God's miracles. Like, should I wear a suit? Should I
Yeah.
get her a stuffed animal? Like, I want to make sure, like, when I meet her, like, she knows one, like, Uncle Jake loves her, and two, like, I, he was just treating it so sweetly, and I
Yeah.
thought, like, what a great tagline,
Yeah.
like how to meet a miracle, and I think so. Obviously, the story is like the point of view of the parents, right? Like we and you and I, like we're getting prepared with our wives on like delivering a child with special needs,
Yep.
and like your anticipation for any child is through the roof.
Oh,
Like you
dude.
don't know
Yeah.
what to expect,
Yep.
and so so for us, it's like, man, like I think one parents like us don't do a great job outside of the hospital setting, breaking bread, getting in each other's houses,
Yeah.
texting each other. A lot of people tend to just sit in their hospital room all day, and
Yep.
and it's easy to do, right? Like we did it the
Yeah.
first several months too. But so one, it was just to get other families talking about having a child with disabilities, getting people connected, allowing their families too to kind of get, I don't know, like a because there, unfortunately, we have met some really cruel and not so kind people in this world.
Yeah, dude.
Um, that one, either parents that don't have a great attitude about their child, or two, family members about their nieces or nephews or
Mhm.
grandparents or like, so we unfortunately have met some of those ugly viewpoints. And so I felt like that was just a way to combat that. And, for folks that like, I think we all struggle with it, is like, why us and
Yeah.
why her and why, why, like the big why question mark. And I think that was, the ultimate end of the goal of the book was just to help parents understand, like, hey, like this doesn't have to be a bad story,
Sure.
or a bad ending,
Yep.
so that was honestly, like that was the goal. And like I said, I mean, I like to tell people the original uh you know story behind it, because like that's just me, man. Like
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I'm not a philosopher. I'm not like, oh man, let me, how do I solve the world's problems? It's
Right.
like, no
Yeah.
man, like I just got pissed off, and I'm like, I can write a better book than this. Yeah, it might not
Fucking
be
A.
great, but like
Yeah, I can do this shit. Somebody else can. I fucking can.
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So that was a fun project, and
How long
man,
did it
I'd
take?
love to write more.
How long did it take you to do it?
Start to finish, about 2 years,
Yeah.
but I wrote the original manuscript in Fallon's hospital room at Children's
No
in
shit.
Cincinnati in probably like a week, and
Yeah.
then I sat on that for about a year, and then I researched some companies and found one that I liked, and I can't draw worth a shit, so I had to hire an illustrator.
Mhm.
And so once we got through that process, then start to finish, like getting the manuscript written, digitalized, illustrators, copyright, like going through all that stuff, figuring out where our distributions are going to be and who's carrying it at what price. That whole process took about 7 months
Cool.
or so.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you
so
ever at the point where you're like, fuck it, I'm done. Like it's just not worth it. Between
Yeah.
illustrators, publishers, carriers, all
Yeah.
that shit. You know,
Mhm.
I could be like, you know what? I just did all this shit for nothing. I can't fucking deal with these people.
Yeah. 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 No, it was, well, and I think trying to describe what you want in email
Yeah.
was really hard because
Mhm.
like I knew I could see it in my head. But like trying to like I mean you have to like describe the entire room. Like what's
Yeah.
the person doing? Like how high are their hands in the air? Like,
Right.
what's their facial expression, right? Like is one eyebrow up, one down, like is their mouth open? Like
Use fucking common sense, people.
yeah, right. Like, what do you think it would look like?
Right. It's funny, man.
So
Like we're talking about that, like before. So we had had Lulu before we had Lucy. I was like, man, Lulu loved those bamboo like pajamas, like the stretchy kind of spandex
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pajamas. And like, dude, I owned a diesel shop. Like, I was not into this shit, but like, I had this vision of like doing like ducks for like pajamas,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, I can't even remember what I was gonna name. It was something fucked up, like what the duck or like what was it? No, it wasn't that. It was I don't know. I forget. It was something fucking stupid. Like we would come up with. I can tell you're the same dude as I am. It was like something that like shouldn't have been on like kids' clothing, but like it made sense to kids, but it was adult humor type deal.
Right, right.
Dude, I like email back and forth to like China companies trying to get this like bamboo pajama set up and like talking to people. I finally gave up. I'm like, you know what? It's not even worth it. Fuck it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, especially I think when you have a vision for something.
Yeah,
Um it's hard to like it's I feel like sometimes it's really hard to like translate your vision
yeah,
to somebody else,
dude.
unless you're around that person, right?
Yep,
Like if you're around the person and you can have conversations like this, but like
yeah.
email, text messaging, like
Yep.
it's just forget it. You know what I mean?
It was quackhead.
Um,
It was
yeah. What
quackhead.
was it?
Quackhead.
Quackhead. Okay, nice, nice. That's good.
I
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
good,
it
dude.
fucking clicked, and I was like, yeah, it was definitely. And then I was gonna do quack baby, for like the baby.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, what the hell was it? I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, yeah, it was definitely. My wife's like, what the fuck, like
Yeah,
I
dude.
don't know, man. But it's definitely tough, like breaking that vision to life, man. I'm sure it was definitely a roller coaster, but fuck, when you've been
Yeah.
through shit that like we've been through, like that's nothing, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 It was a fun distraction, I think, too. Especially that year in Delaware was just, I mean, dude, I worked, pretty much every day.
Mhm.
And,
Were you remote?
it was
Is that were you able to like? Are you like remote work? Is that were you able to
not,
keep?
not then. I am
Yeah.
now. So I've worked for T-Mobile for the last 7 years.
Okay.
And so I started off as a rep, and then
Mhm.
we have a marketing team out here that I ran for a little bit here in Cincinnati,
Okay.
and then managed some stores when we went out to Delaware.
Yeah.
So that's what I did out there, and it was just obviously like retail hours, right? So like I would
Yeah.
wake up, get to the store at like 9. Somebody would call off inevitably every
Of course.
week, and so there'd be a couple days I'd be there open to close, and then you know, and my rule was always like go see Fallon. You know what I mean? Like no matter how bad the day was, or um, outside of getting sick when we moved out to Delaware that
Mhm.
first initial week, like my wife and I didn't miss a day in the hospital. You know what I mean?
That
So like
shit
it
air,
was,
bro. Like we're in the armpit. Like this,
yeah.
this is the
Oh,
armpit of
dude,
America.
dude. I What's funny is especially like okay, East Coast people taught me probably the most important skill of my life, and it's
Yeah.
just telling people what you want. Because
Yeah.
I like we're from Kentucky, right? So like it's not southern, but it is a little bit,
Sure.
So it's like people will be sweet, they'll be
Mhm.
kind, they'll kind of dance around what they want to say to you. And
Yeah.
somebody on the East Coast, usually 9 times out of 10, has a cigarette in their mouth, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Listen, I don't give a fuck about you, okay? If you are gonna do X, Y, Z, that's gonna really piss me off. So don't do that." And it's like so like. I, as a Midwesterner coming out to the East Coast, was like, "What is this?" And then
Yeah.
it was cool because like you could have, so like being a leader, like I would have coaching conversations with people,
Mhm.
and I'd have to be like, "Hey, listen, you're doing great." Call it the sandwich, right? Like
Yeah.
you positive, you give them the
Mhm.
meat, and then you slam the other side of the positivity. So it's like, "Hey,
Yep.
you're doing great. I need you to work on this, but we're going to do it together." So you
Yeah.
just East Coast people are like, "I don't want the sandwich. Just give me the meat. Just
Fuck it
fucking,
that.
just
Yeah.
spit in my face, kick me in the shin, and then send me on my way." And I like there's a level of honesty from East Coast people that I was like very shocked by. At first, I was really kind of offended,
Sure.
like I would be like, "What the fuck? Like, what did you just say to me?" And then after we were there for, I'd say about 6 to 7 months, it became these people actually care, but like they just don't care enough to like dance around your feelings,
Sure.
And like I heard this and I feel like it's very true. We've been to the West Coast, we didn't live there.
Mhm.
But I heard a saying, the West, like a West Coast person, like from California, would break down on the side of the highway. Somebody from the West Coast would drive by and be like, "Dude, that really sucks, man.
Yeah.
Hope your day gets better. See ya." Versus an East Coast person would drive by the whole time would just chew you out. "You stupid son of a bitch. You should you saw the road hazards. You shouldn't have ran over it." But they would have like
Yeah.
yanked the tire iron out of your hand. They're gonna help you change the tire. But the
Yep.
whole time they're just cussing you out. They're
Mhm.
like putting lit cigarettes out on your arms.
Yeah.
And then like at the end of it, you're like, "Thank you so much." And they're like, "Fuck you,"
Yeah. Don't fucking do
but
it
like
again.
they help you, like,
Yeah.
and honestly, like I have never heard just a very short way of describing the polar opposites
Mhm.
of people. West Coast people are nice, but they're not going to help you. East Coast
Yeah.
people are dicks, but they
Yeah.
will help you.
It's funny, man. I mean, I can definitely agree. Like I couldn't describe it better myself.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it took some getting used to, but anyhow, I've been able to take that back home where now, if family asks how I'm doing and stuff, like I probably am a little too blunt
Yeah.
now, because
Yeah.
you go through what we go through, and it's just like, man, I think that's what I have the hardest time adjusting to these days is like trying to act normal
Yeah.
when like our life isn't, and it's like, so for me, we live in this constant war zone with Fallon of like, we're gonna wake up to an emergency today, and
Yeah.
and it's just like for me, like once you really struggle with what, like, and again, I want to be light on how I say this because obviously I know there's people in our community that have lost children, so
Mhm.
I'm not trying to put in a comparison to actually
Sure.
losing Fallon, but man, we've
Yeah.
gotten so close so many times
Yeah.
where there that split second of like them losing their heartbeat and having
Yep.
to get CPR and like it's just like your heart gets ripped out of you,
Yeah, man.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't go back in the same way, like there's a scar there that it festers sometimes, like
Um,
it gets a little pussy, you know what I mean? Like it
okay.
gets really hard sometimes, and then you talk to people about normal shit and you're just like, I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't
I
care
know.
about your feelings right now.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Yep.
I can't describe you what we just had happen 2 nights ago. And it's like, and then somebody's complaining today at work about like, getting an extra charge on their Starbucks bill or something. I'm like,
Fuck
get
your
fucked. Get
Starbucks, bro.
fucked. Like,
I get it, man. We deal with it all the time because, like, and one thing with like Lucy is like, man, and I gotta be kind of careful what I say, but she looks normal. You know what I mean? Like, she
yeah.
looks like a normal baby, and like,
Yeah.
my wife and I, like, our favorite saying is because she's supposed to be fucking normal.
Right.
Like that's the hardest part for us is like she should have been, a normal quote,
Sure.
a normal baby, until things kind of went south. But that's probably one of our biggest struggles,
Yeah.
of dealing with everything is that like everybody sees her and like of course she posts like my wife's big on like keeping updates on social media because like man we have like people from the NICU and stuff like that we made a page for Lucy and they follow it they get to see it like that brings joy to us.
Yeah.
Because they were such a big part of her life and then 90% of the time they just go. They
Yeah.
don't know, like their story, what they're doing, what their goals are, like how they're progressing and everything. And
Right.
like I didn't want that, like I wouldn't want that, if I was a NICU nurse, man, and I like, brought this baby back to life, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I
Yes.
like that shit would stick with me.
Right.
So like we're big on that, and like people that just don't understand the circumstances and the diagnosis that she has and all that stuff. Like they just see a normal baby and we're like, yeah, she's great. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
come to our 3 or 4 appointments every week.
Right.
Drive
Yeah,
to
man.
like every time we go into an appointment, man, and we see the same nurses, and the same doctors and stuff like that now that we've seen for the past, well, she transferred, so she was born in one hospital, and then like I guess it was probably about 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks after she was born, we transferred her to Nemours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and, like, after that, where we're just like, these people are family. You know what I mean? Like, the
Yeah.
really, brought it up because and that was our fight, like, our battle of getting her transferred was, like, it's nothing to do with what you guys have done. You guys have brought our daughter back to life. She's living. She wasn't supposed to be, alive after day 4. Yeah, we were surprised that she was still living after day 4.
Mm.
Especially when we've got the MRI and all that stuff with the brain damage and everything, and no real, EEG, nothing really going on in there. Um, we got into the Moors, and it was just like, I'm like, this is where we're going to be. So you might as well transfer us
Right.
now, get it over with. We appreciate everything you've done. You guys have done everything you can do. We're working on feeding and some other stuff, and then it's just a long road.
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody knows what path it's going on. So
Right.
let's get to the Moors. Let's build the establishment. Let's build the relationships and everything. And dude, it's just been fucking amazing. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind or no not understanding why people travel from all over the world to go to the Moors because it's just a fucking great hospital.
It really is, man. No, it really is. And I think what's cool is what we didn't experience at Cincinnati is like we talked about vision a little bit ago, and like I this isn't my quote, but somebody said faith is grabbing a vision of the future and bringing it back to the present. So it's like faith is kind of that gap between how you see your kid's life going and how you know what I mean, like and
Mm.
what's happening here in the moment. And
Yeah,
I felt like when we were in Cincinnati, nobody dreamed with us. You know what I mean? Like it was, and granted, like I have sympathy for doctors because obviously I know there's kids and parents that they do deliver news to.
yeah,
That is absolute, and they watch kids die every day. So like I absolutely want to give respect and honor to doctors and nurses and everybody else. But like Cincinnati was just a cold place in the NICU. Like
yeah,
there was zero dreaming. Audrey and I were so gung ho about Fallon being here and like trying to get other people bought into the idea that like we're not throwing in the towel yet, you
yeah.
know, like
Advocating, man. Yep.
100%. And then
Yeah,
once we got to Nemours, it was like it felt like a completely different like world, you know, like people like doctors were coming into our room and like, hey, you know, XYZ, but we can try this and we could do that. And there was a game plan and like, and we saw Fallon immediately just like take off, you know, there was, you know, she had to stay in like cervical traction as soon as we got there. Part of Campomelic is some kids with CD get a C spine. Basically, it's called a kyphosis, and
hmm
what it does is it essentially like eventually severs the spinal cord. So if this is the spine,
yeah.
you've got your spinal cord that runs right between it, and there's supposed to be fluid in between. Well, what happens is that kyphosis starts to sever the
Okay.
spinal cord, which at that point your body shuts off everything: your heart, your legs, your lungs, everything.
Wow.
So most kids with CD you know, are trached and then they have to get this kyphosis surgery. So Fallon laid in a hospital bed from the moment she was about 6 months old when we got to Nemours. From 6 months to just under a year. I think she was like 11 months in a couple of days. And for another 6 months, she laid in a hospital bed with a thing around her neck that just kind
Yeah.
of helped keep her spine in a spot where it wasn't compressing
Sure.
against her spinal cord. And And so like it wasn't an easy time, but what was different was like I just felt like there were people around us that actually believed that she was going
Yeah.
to live, you know,
Right.
and
Yep.
you feel so at times you feel like are we pushing too hard, you know, like we want our kid here, and I think that was something Audrey and I decided from day one, like we're not saying no. You know, like
Yeah.
if she's alive and if they give her CPR, Audrey jokes with me all the time, but we were sitting in a conference with the doctors and they're like, how many times do you want us to bring her back? At that point in children, she was coding every day and they were CPR every day.
Wow.
And so they kept asking us like, how many times? And I'm like, you break her fucking ribs if you
Yeah.
have to.
Every
You
fucking time.
Every
Yeah.
time. If you
Yeah.
have to hurt her to bring, and obviously, like I'm not telling them to like hurt my daughter, but like
Sure.
our thing was like if she comes back, we're fighting. But
Yeah.
if her body gives up and you guys are doing CPR for 30 minutes and she's out, like
Yep.
I game over, I guess. But
Yeah.
like until then, like we're not giving up, man. And I feel like Nemours has that in them, where they get in the fight with you, and it's
Yep.
like it changes things, man. It
Yeah.
really does
It
for
does.
you and for your kid.
Big time, man. What
So
what got you through it, man? What are you into? What's your thing? I mean, I know you're reading a book and stuff like that, but like, what was it, man? What kind of got
heroin.
through? Shit, heroin? Yeah, fucking me too, brother. I can dig it deep.
Yeah, brother. I yeah, no. So obviously like my faith is huge.
Yeah.
I cuss like a sailor, but that outside of that, like my faith, my connection with God is
Mhm.
the strongest it's ever been. Like right before we had Fallon, I was not struggling with my faith, but I was definitely like just a very lackadaisical Christian,
Yeah.
and so this really expedited my faith.
Mhm.
And so God has obviously been a very, very consistent part of my life the last several years. Um, I, man, I feel like I married the right woman, like I've not to, obviously, hopefully she watches this at some point, but like
Fucking A, brownie points. Get you
yeah,
some.
that's right. That's right. Hey, baby, can I get some loving tonight?
Love you,
But
babe.
like, but but no, man. Like we joke about it all the time. Like, there's exes of ours that we talk about, and it's like, no, I couldn't have imagined going through this with one of my girlfriends from high school or something,
Sure.
or she's got some guys that she dated, and
Mhm.
I think for me, like I married the right woman, and she is everything I need her to be on the days where I'm not
Yeah.
something, and I, not to pat my own back, but like,
Yep.
she has her days too. And like, what's funny is I feel like we're never down at the same day,
Yeah.
like if she's down, I'm up and vice
Oh,
versa.
man. Yeah.
But, but yeah, man, I don't know. Outside of that, I work out, try
Work
to
it
at
out.
least. And I don't know, man. I bury myself in work a lot,
Yeah.
I really, I love working, but here recently I have felt like I think work's kind of turned into a bit of a distraction,
Yeah.
and so it's just funny, like that ebb and flow of like I gotta work because I gotta make money so I can stay at home and
Yep.
I can help with hospital visits and
Yeah.
emergencies, and then you dive a little too hard into that side of it, and
Sure.
then you're missing out on the stuff you're fighting for, so
Dude,
it's
well,
like
exactly. And that's what this shit is all about, is because like I noticed it like before we had Lucy, when we were just with Lulu, like I had my business and all that stuff. And like, dude, I was working all the time, 12, 16 hours. It never turned off, but like physically
yeah,
12 to 16-hour days. And man, I had that dad guilt where I was like, fuck, man, when I get home, I'm beat. You know what I mean? But I still put in the
yeah,
work. But I felt like I was missing out on so much. Sam and, Lulu were going to Disney and, doing this and doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I just got to do what I got to do. And I felt myself, going into that path of just working all the time, and
right,
my
right,
idea of, being the dad as the provider, the protector. And my wife worked too, you know what I mean? She
yeah,
had a studio, but like, and that's what we joke around. Like we had the American dream. Both of us had businesses, you know what I mean?
that's
Like
cool,
nothing was like an issue. Like if we needed it, we worked harder, we bought it, we did it, we did what we had to do. And now it's just it's different. It's just
Right.
a different world. It totally changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the more you brush up against like mortality, I feel like it really forces you to like live in the moment a little bit
Yeah.
more, you know. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say, brother, I am perfect every day,
Sure.
you know, like
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
but it, you know, there's more days than not where I think I wake up and when I get to hold my baby, I'm just so fucking grateful, you know, like it's just like, man, like this life can suck ass sometimes,
Yeah.
but like just the fact that she's still here, she might not be here tomorrow, you know,
Sure.
like and I think what's fucked is like a lot of parents don't have to think about that, you
Yeah.
know. But I'll tell you, if you put yourself in that mindset, or if you're like us, like you're forced to kind of have those thoughts and
Sure.
conversations with doctors and stuff, I just feel like it just makes life so much sweeter. Like those kisses are sweeter, those nuzzles are sweeter, like and man, I don't know. I say it all the time to my wife, but like there's a lot of this I wouldn't trade. You
Yeah.
know, like the diagnosis, yes, like absolutely. But you know, some of the lessons and just the depth that I feel like it's added to our marriage and I don't know, the admiration of my baby girl just being so tough and like it, you know, as dads too. And especially I will say as a dad with a daughter with a disability versus a
Yeah.
son with a disability, I feel like it's just a skosh worse because it's like
Yeah.
that's your baby girl. Like that's supposed to be your precious little girl. And like there's not a fucking thing you and I can do about some of the issues they have with their bodies.
No.
And it sucks, man.
Yeah. It does.
You know, like what like passing your baby off to you know, a surgeon or
Yeah.
you know, it's like that should be me, man. Like I should be the one fixing that. And it's
Yeah.
like I that's the part that I think I get really tripped up on sometimes is like I just like we said, like I try to do as much as I can financially to make sure her mom is here and she's able to
Sure.
do what she needs to do.
Yep.
And we've got a roof over our heads and insurance is paid and you know, but like, you know, man, like I think it's difficult where it's like, you know, you've got a weekend like that and then you got to go to work and then you got to still be a dad and it's just
Oh
like,
God.
brother, like it
Throw me a
gets
fucking bone.
yeah, for real. Like I see, you know, I see, and obviously this is a joke, but like you see people online, like you know, oh, you won $10,000 today for being at a grocery store, and it's like, man, I don't need a handout, but like, good
Yeah. Come
God,
on,
can
motherfucker.
I win the fucking lottery? Like, I don't need millions, man, but like, good
Yeah.
Lord, like a couple grand would be fucking nice.
Exactly. Just take the fucking ease off a little bit. We joke around, my wife all the time. I'm like, whoever whoever says money can't fucking buy happiness, they never had a little bit of fucking money before. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yes,
Like, I
yes,
just, for me, like, it can fucking buy whatever you want. Obviously, it can't buy you a healthy, happy family and all that shit. But,
yeah.
at the end of the day, like, money buys shit, and I like shit.
Yeah, seriously,
Like,
yeah. Well, and I don't like stressing about
yeah, man.
anything but my daughter. You know what I mean? So it's like, bro, like, yeah, money also buys like rent and
Yeah.
you know, and a mortgage
Stability.
and like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
just
just
stability,
yeah,
like,
right, right, right,
and
and
that's,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, we're definitely
and
on the
shit,
different.
you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm not a big car guy, man. But like, we're finally at a place where I'm like, I might get a truck.
yeah,
And I've always driven my wife's backup car. She gets
mhm.
the upgrade every time we can afford it. And
You're a good man. You're a good man,
oh,
bro.
dude, it's I'm just not a car guy. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
had a truck when I was younger, and it was nice, but like putting $20 in a car and
yeah,
going for months on it is
yep,
nice too. But anyhow, I've been looking at you just said money and like toys and stuff. I'm like, bro, I found a Tundra that I've been looking for a Tundra,
mhm,
and I just found one for less than 100,000 miles.
yeah,
And I don't know. I'm kind of like I literally just found it today, so I'm like
yeah.
going back and forth. I'm like, am I gonna get it? I don't know.
Can't go wrong with the truck, man. There's always shit
No.
to be done. There's always a truck always has a fucking good stability thing. For the house, like it is what it is.
When as a dad, it's like, oh, I can do so much guy shit with it, you
Yeah,
know, like.
exactly. Do some dad shit. Yeah,
And you tell your wife like, hey, I'm gonna mow more, okay? I'm gonna build decks, you
yeah.
know.
But then when
I
you
don't know how to
don't do
build a
that
fucking
shit,
tank.
yeah, when you don't do that shit, they're like, "How about that fucking truck?"
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh shit, man.
I could fucking bullshit with you forever, man. You never know what to expect. You know what I mean? When you jump on these things, and I'm
Sure.
talking to you, I can tell you're a fucking cool dude. But like, yeah, man. Um, this has been a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate. Like I said, I mean, and I, I, I think it gets cool when you see dads getting, because it's so funny because like every time a dad gets some recognition as a dad, you're like,
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
fucking
But
right,
then
man.
but when it's you, you're kind of like, I don't need it,
Right?
like
Yeah, yeah,
man, come on, not
yep,
me, like quit
yeah,
it, like,
yeah,
but like it's here, like it's, but like when you see other dads get recognized, especially when you know them, like guys
yeah,
like Odell and Adrian and, like there's just certain guys in my life where I'm like, dude, I have watched that guy crawl out of a 12-hour shift, crawl
yeah,
his sloppy ass up to the hospital,
yep,
love on that baby, and
yeah,
then go home and make dinner for his wife. And then the guy called me at 2 in the morning. He's got to get up at 6 to go back to work. And we're just calling and drinking a beer at 12 o'clock at night.
yep,
And, and you wake up and you do it all again the next day, man.
yeah,
And
man.
there's just zero spotlight on those men, and I think there's also a lot of men that are going through what we're going through. And I think video platforms like this and what you do on Facebook and stuff, man, like it gives silently suffering dads, like a chance to be recognized, and you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. And that's what it's
yeah,
all about. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I said from the gate, like I started this thing to like help myself, but like I'm not putting the spotlight on myself. You know what I mean? Like I don't need
right,
that. I don't want that. Like it helps me. Always been more of a giver than a receiver. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
like it helps me more showing like, hey man, this dad's going through this, man. Let's fucking pick him up. You know what I mean?
sure,
Because I was there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I
yeah,
don't want it to be like, I started this thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I want it to be like, this dude deserves it. You know what I mean? Like, he's
sure.
been through the fucking ringer, and came out fucking
Mhm.
swinging, and he's still here. Everybody's still
Right.
fucking rolling with it, because that's what it is. I mean, and that's when I came up with I was trying to find like a good line of like the name. You know what I mean? And like I was kind of talking over my wife and all that stuff. And I'm like, it just like we were talking about like families, little warriors and all this stuff. And I'm like, but like it needs to be dads. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
out there for dads. And when we were going through our shit, I'm like, it just takes that one, like the couple buddies that I had that were, messaging me and talking to me and stuff like that. Like it kind of held me through. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was
Yeah.
just like right there, like I was on the fucking edge, and like those guys just reaching out and talking to me. I'm like, this needs to be a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well,
Where
and kudos to you for having the balls to go through what you go through, and then also say yes to this. You know what I mean? And put together a podcast and launch hats and shirts, and I mean your fucking content's great. Like
man?
it's not cringy. Sometimes you see other people in this space, or at least just online, that are just like, it's like, oh man, the heart's cool, but like yikes, like a
Yeah,
little cringy, but like, dude, your stuff it's natural, man, and
yeah.
especially the podcast and stuff. It's just it's a really good thing what you're doing, man. I know obviously every dad says it to you, and they should. It's you're really making a difference, man.
And that's what
So
keeps me going. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's tough. You know what I mean? Between dealing with,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Trying to keep, the wife happy and stuff. And we do have a 2-year old. You know what I mean?
right,
Shit, tough doing this. And like, as long as I know that it's helping other people along with myself, then fuck it, dude. I'm all in. You know what I mean?
right, right.
I do what I got to do. And, it's, I don't plan on, going anywhere with it. It's like anything other than up. Like I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
do more and more. Like I was telling you before we got on the podcast, like me and Odell sat there and bullshit for like 2 fucking hours.
Well, and it's funny too because I feel like video allows people to not only just hear and see something that helps. Like I feel like it helps them see something that they can't see, if that makes sense. Like when we had first found out like about Fallon's diagnosis, and we would lay in bed and we would look up like kids with Campo,
Yeah,
like couldn't find anything on Facebook,
sure.
nothing online. All you kept seeing is death, 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 death. And then finally we went through pages and pages of YouTube and we found this family that recorded their daughter from birth until I think she's like 10 now
Yeah,
with Campamelic, and
sure.
like, the vent and the surgeries, and like, and brother, like seeing something in digital format gave us hope. Like we would
Yeah,
lay in bed and watch this little
good
girl, her
time,
name's
man.
Evie, and like just fucking cry. So I
Yep.
think God, like stuff like this is like, man, like you get a dad who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's
Yeah.
scared, he's shitless, like, and it's just like, yeah, it allows a dad to feel. I remember the first time I met Odell and Adrian. We
Yeah.
sat at a restaurant and just bawled our eyes out because like we had finally met some people
Yeah, man.
that understood what we were
I
going
can
through,
felt
and
it.
it's like
Yeah.
it's I don't know, it's special, man. It's
It is.
all I'm saying. It's very special. So thank you for being a big ass cool ass fucking sweet ass dad, man.
I appreciate it, brother. Same to you, man. It's awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on. Seriously.
Yeah, man. Anytime. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. This is Dad's Little Warriors Dad Talk Season 2, where we get some real dads on here. And I appreciate Josh, man. It's been awesome talking to you. It's been a great time. I haven't laughed, like this for a while, man. So I really appreciate you and coming on, and can't wait to we'll have to do this thing back. Go ahead and run it back one time.
Oh, hell yeah. Run it back, baby. You know what I mean? Part 2, part 3.
That's right.
So,
All right, brother.
man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you for having me, bro.
You got it, man.
See you, dude.
See ya.